Welcome. My name is Antonio Vecchio, and I'm the Consumer Engagement Lead at the Spinal Research Institute. Research into sports science now plays a significant role in allowing athletes to reach peak performance. This is especially true of Paralympic athletes, where many factors are involved in ensuring that athletes with disabilities can compete at the highest level. Such factors include developing specific equipment such as wheelchair and prosthetics, and managing the individual subtleties associated with different disabilities. For example, an athlete with a spinal cord injury needs to manage thermal regulation during competition. Today, I'm joined by Paul Kiteley, the National Performance Director of Wheelchair Rugby with Paralympics Australia. Paul has also previously been the Performance Services Manager with the Victorian Institute of Sport. During his career in sport, Paul has allowed and created pathways for people to become Olympic and Paralympians. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Antonio. Great to be here.
No, thank you for taking the time. So it's exciting times heading into the Paralympics. I guess one of the big questions that I want to ask is, what are some of the challenges faced by Paralympic athletes that non-Paralympics may be faced with?
I think you just mentioned in your intro some of the variables that need to be taken into account. I want to just start by saying that the overall goal and the intention and the focus is the same for our Olympians and our Paralympians. They have an absolute clear drive to be the best athlete they can be and perform under pressure at the benchmark events like the Paralympics. And they work with their coaches and their sports scientists and their strength and conditioning experts to prepare every day to resolve and to get themselves in a position to do that. Having said that some of them, just through their particular circumstances, need to manage the nuances of their health or their particular disability to make sure that that's factored into their planning. And what they then do is that they call on the right expertise and the research that enables them to get to where they need to go and deliver a performance under that particular circumstance. And just one quick example, and you mentioned it in your intro, the thermoregulation. Tokyo is a hot, humid situation. So a number of our athletes have been working with quite high-level experts in recovery, in heat management. Their sports science expertise is world-class, and they have done tremendous work in understanding what that individual needs and what preparation they need to do in the immediate 2 or 3 hours before their event, and very importantly, what they have to do immediately after their event to recover and to get ready if they have to compete again the next day. So this isn't just guesswork. This is hours of work working with high-level scientists to deliver those circumstances. The other one that you've been mentioning is around the equipment side, and there've been fantastic work done in the equipment development world. A couple of quick examples. We work closely with Matt Crawford at the Australian Institute of Sport, and he has done some fantastic work helping wheelchair tennis athletes like Dylan Alcott, one of our great players, Riley Batt, in wheelchair rugby, Tristan Knowles, who's one of our leading wheelchair basketball athletes. Matt has done some fantastic engineering work in modifying their sports chair design to give them an extra advantage when they get on court and they have to deliver their performances under these pressures that presents. So the overall concept and the direction is you get the best experts you can, surround them working with your coaches, and get involved in the sport and understand what the sport needs to be able to be world class, and then use all of the technology available to help deliver that result for everyone. And again, each time it's a very individualized solution where those experts really understand that every minute advantage could make a difference against a very tight opponent in a close match. So, And I'll finish off by saying that the leading nations right now who are currently battling out for Olympic medals have invested heavily to support their Paralympic athletes as well. So China and the US and Germany and Great Britain and Australia and Canada have all been very proactive to try and make sure that all of the teams are in good shape and ready to perform.
So it sounds like, especially in equipment, that a lot of attention to detail goes into chair setups. You know, for those people out there watching Paralympics for the first time, they may look at a wheelchair, and they say, oh, well, there's not much difference between a lot of them, but there really is. And even like the materials, the setup, the camber of the wheels, you know, and things like that. So and that's where research, by the sounds of it, plays a significant role in that attention to detail.
Oh, absolutely. And the one that you've just mentioned, I mean, we use the example of Dylan Alcott, our champion wheelchair tennis athlete. The work that was done in redesigning his sports chair. You mentioned before about the level of detail and examination to just make sure that everything was about his performance, and everything was about putting him in there's a term called a biomechanical advantageous position, which means that he can deliver his shot or his serve or his return in the best possible way that impacts that performance. So a lot of this is often trial and error, where there's ongoing modification, and then once that information is then analysed, then further modification takes place. But this research thrust that you've just mentioned, that's what it's built around. So people have theories and they have ideas, and they think, I believe this will help get this person and help their performance. But until I have it proven, I don't know. And that's why that open-mindedness comes in, where the athlete actually has to take on board that initially there may be actually some drop-off in their performance as they get used to their new equipment. But they have to be able to have the confidence in the scientific research people helping them to know that long-term, as they work through it, the ultimate end game will take them to where they need to be. And I think there's been, as I've mentioned earlier, some of those examples of athletes going on that journey and then getting to a point where they've looked back and say, gee, I'm in a much stronger position to deliver my performance because of all of the work that's happened with my support team. So, yeah, when it all comes off, it for the people in the audience looks like, oh, it's fantastic. How good does that look? But many of them don't understand that of the hours and hours of work by everybody involved and the commitment from the athlete to embrace those changes, and how important that is to really get to where they need to go. But I think it's a trait that most of our top high-performance athletes have, is that they have an absolute hunger to be always trying to get better. So if they sit back and think, oh, I'm playing well, I don't have to keep striving for that next level, that's a dangerous position, because that's when opponents come up and give you a very big reminder that if sitting back and just waiting for someone else to catch up doesn't cut it, and always you have to be trying to find ways to be at your best.
It sounds like as well, you mentioned before that the top countries are putting money into obviously Olympic performance, but also Paralympic performance now. So what would be, I guess, the disadvantage of not investing in Paralympic sports science and research into and just accepting it for, well, you know, they're just, let's say, and I hate to say this, but they're just disabled athletes, you know, that mindset without investing into the high performance side of the sport?
I think the great journey that has happened, really, I think 2000 Paralympics, Olympics was a fantastic breakthrough, where the crowd participation, the crowd support, the the acknowledgement of what occurred started a really strong journey from then. And I think it has grown each time on that journey. And what I feel now is that there has a lot more of an understanding and a greater insight into the way that the games have been presented. I want to just make special mention. I was privileged enough to be with the Australian Paralympic team in London, and Channel 4 in Britain were the host broadcasters of that particular event. And many of your people might be listening in this may have seen some of their advertising about the way that games was presented as the superhumans. And I felt that that actually helped to really, again, lift the game in terms of true understanding of what the games really represented and how those athletes see themselves. And they simply want to be respected, admired, and really highly get the plaudits because they're great athletes. And I felt that some of that new language was put into the to the public arena, and I think this has continued on. And I think a number of situations will also happen in Tokyo, where athletes from all nations will be admired for their hard work, dedication, and talent, and that will be a great thing. And I think the athletes will appreciate that. You did mention about the investment and how it can make a difference, especially in those sports that have a technology base. It is really clear that in sports such as cycling and athletics and some of those triathlon, where components of the race mean that you have to be utilising certain technologies to go as fast as you possibly can, there's no doubt that if you don't have the latest technology available to you, then your performance can't be as competitive as some of your opponents. And this is where there has to be acknowledgement and recognition that some of our smaller nations that don't have that wherewithal, that is one of the reasons why they always struggle in those technology-based sports, is because it's just not possible for their athletes to be able to compete on a level playing field. It doesn't take away their effort or their enthusiasm or their commitment to their sport, but and it's no different in the Olympics as well, is that there are certain situations where some of those lead nations do have the latest available to them, which gives their athletes some competitive advantage. So at the end of the day, this is about absolutely getting investment to athletes that are highly deserving of that support, and they're proudly representing their country. And all of us who watch and admire that, we want to wish them the best, but also let them go away with that confidence that they're able to get in there and do their best and try and deliver a performance under which is always tough, a lot of pressure, but we want them to come back and feel that we're all proud of them.
I guess on that note as well, for any researchers listening out there, there's great opportunities to get involved in this area, especially in the Paralympic side of it, because of the technology that goes into wheelchairs, prosthetics, as well as the medical side of disability. So there are great opportunities to get involved. If you're interested in sport, interested in research and what have you, then Paralympic research is probably a great area for a lot of people to get involved in.
Yes, I also want to acknowledge a colleague of mine, Dr. Ross Pinder, who's a skill acquisition expert, and he and his team, an innovations team at Paralympics Australia, are doing some fantastic work, and it's broadening this awareness about how working and helping coaches, understanding how if they deliver their messages and develop coaching training techniques and environments and conditions for athletes to be able to prepare in the best possible way, that gives them the same sort of advantage as if it was an equipment technology outcome. So I just want to acknowledge the work is fantastic, and there's some terrific work with innovations across a range of universities where a lot of these factors are being reviewed. And I think some of the work that's coming from Australia in these partnerships is world class. And it's what you were saying before, is that it's the full complement of the areas that help an athlete be the best they can be, what they do in every training session, what they do with their coach, as well as what equipment they've got, is all part of that scenario that helps them progress and find a way to stretch themselves and get better.
Awesome. Couldn't agree more. Well, thank you, Paul, for joining me today. Good luck to yourself and the rest of the team over in Tokyo. We look forward to following how the Australian team go. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.